we'd call like 20 times. Hey, where did you go? And this guy's emails changed. And he's like, oh, the person who had that job is now this guy. And we'd have to reconnect with somebody else. And they'd be like, oh yeah, that project, that's fantastic. Sure, we'll give you 6 more months of licensing. That one's worked really well. Valve, the Valve one was crazy. I was talking, Frank Lloyd Wright built a beer garden in downtown Chicago 2 years before Prohibition. Huge mistake, right? They ended up just bulldozing the whole thing into the lake. This is not quite 100 years ago. And I've been talking with an archaeologist who's been digging this place up about doing a virtual reconstruction. And I was at Microsoft Meltdown, and we've been talking to the Valve guys. And they said, hey, if you do it in our software, we can get you 20 seats on our software. And so I've had 20 seats on the Steam Engine for all of these years because we built this recreation of this beer garden. It turns out it's really great for deathmatch challenges. And that was really cool because my students got the ability to go in and hack a real engine and then have real players come in and play. So we imported model artifacts. We had pop-up screens so you could shoot artifacts, and we just pop up a thing, oh, this person found this artifact, and here was the history of the artifact. The archaeologists loved this, right? And it turns out that the game players thought this was really interesting. Well, these are real things, this is a real, and it sparked a lot of interest in that. Let's see, NVIDIA, I knew David Lukey, once again from graduate school. And I've been doing real-time video processing as part of the Tune Effect stuff. That was once again a crazy one. We called the first engineer I called, I told him what I wanted to do, and could just get some hardware, access to some hardware. And he kind of screamed at me, "You're not doing graphics." So I called the next guy, and he said, "Well, that's not graphics." And I said, "No, it's video processing." And he said, "You know what, Adobe's one of our biggest clients. People who are buying the new Adobe products, we're using GPU-enabled algorithms. Yeah, you can have whatever you want." So that one was great. I started working with Nokia. I've got a student who's a senior research scientist there. That one actually came out of a conversation. This kind of will echo what Eric was talking about earlier today. My neighbor 2 doors down is the vice president of ICBC. And he works on antique cars. So every once in a while I walk down, I watch him work on the cars, and we talk. And he was telling me that he has a real problem, and that about 40% of his white-collar workforce is retiring in the next 10 years. And he said, I can't replace them. The people, the white-collar workers with the skills that I need do not exist in British Columbia. Right? There's been a drop-off after the baby boomers. There just aren't people with those college degrees. And Canada isn't importing them. I don't know what to do. And he said, Canada has faced a problem like this in the past. In about the 1900s, people started moving off the farm, right? So 100 years ago, there were 2% of the people working on farms in Canada that there were 100 years ago, right? That 2% of people produces 50 times more agricultural product than people did 100 years ago, right? So we've got a 100-to-1 multiplier, right, per person working on farms here in Canada. He said the difference is a $50 million, on average, investment in capital equipment per person. Right? My neighbor Keith said, look, if you can get me something, any technology, we'll give you a 100-to-1 multiplier for a white-collar worker, I'll give you $50 million. It's not a problem. It's there for you. And I pitched that one to a lot of people. That's where I got the deal with Nokia. I pitched that to Nokia. I've done some work where we automatically generate file icons based on the content of the file. So if you read a paper about Apple, so that it came up with a little apple, or maybe a picture of the person that the story was about. Turns out that people do, in recall tasks, you're about 18% faster. In memory tasks, you're about 24% faster. And being in the computer science industry, you think, gosh, I'm used to computers getting 100% faster every year and a half. Well, a 24% increase in human performance is the difference between, say, me going out and running a mile and an Olympic athlete going out and running a mile. Right, little fat boy versus Olympic athlete. It is about a 24% increase. So that's pretty good. And that's where that came up. I had a former student in Nokia. I told her that story. She said, hey, why don't we work on that? And they incorporated, her lab is embedded at Stanford. And so, it's Austin, Stanford, and that deal. Yeah. So that's what I have. How do we get together? For me, it's been personal relationships and then why. I'm on the phone talking to somebody and it just happened. But I think things like this are the things that have mattered for me. I go around and talk to people, I just have the time, to have a few beers and say, hey, I've been doing this, I've got this crazy thought. And once again, the guys at Sony are like, hey man, we need better PR. If you could do that, that would give us really great PR. How can we help you? Right? We don't have money, but we can give you this. And I can give you a phone line and you can call my guys. That's the other, how do we remove barriers with persistence? And then the other thing I think, once again, echoing Kelly, what I've noticed is that in the game industry, once again, artists and engineers, and when we educate these, we as educators look at these two things. With engineers, we teach them to build things, right? And I teach you to build a system, right? And you're going to build a thing. When you look at the way that artists are educated, it's completely different. It's, you have this talent, and I'm going to help you develop your talent, right? Engineers view people as just, you're a piece of my machine, you're a cog, you're going to help me do this thing. Engineering is generally very cash intensive, right? I bring in as many research dollars as the entire College of Art at the University of Victoria, right? But I think that has transferred over to the game industry. They're not, I'm thinking, I'm speaking to the academics in the room, if they want to build something, they can do it. They've hired my best students for the last 20 years. They're really, really smart people. The other thing is, they don't want that expertise in my university. They need that expertise in their company. Asking them for money to build something generally hasn't worked. However, they're very, very interested in developing talent. If I say, hey, I've got a good student, can I get him out to your place for 6 months? Yes. That almost always works. Once again, I place students at Pixar, at Disney, all over. And the big fear for me as a junior professor was, they're going to go away and come back, and never come back. They're going to go away, love that place, never come back. It's never happened to me. I have one colleague who had a student stay at Pixar. My student went to Pixar, stayed for a year, and came back and finished his degree. So I don't think that that's something, but I think that's the dichotomy. And if you can take it that way, my students have come back fired up, full of problems, and really full of professional expertise. So I think that for us, is a way to get together, to start getting together. That's what I have. All right. Thank you.